persons have seen an increase in government outreach activities,
Mm-hmm.
and you can safely say ever since the NCM. But your ministry is one that couldn't afford such a luxury of just downtown.
No, because
Your function remains more so outside of Georgetown.
well, yes, the people are in the hinterland, so we have to go and meet them. And they, it's very expensive to come to town, but when they do have to come to town, if they have to go to the bank or something to get their monies, well, then they would stop in the ministry and do other businesses and so on. But, it's very, our ministry, I think it's a unique ministry where we have to work with all the other, our other sister ministries regards to health, education, and social protection and all those things. So I think together we are doing a good job so far.
What do you believe has been the major contribution by this government to better the lives of the indigenous people? Not more so in the hinterland as opposed to
In the hinterland. All right. I'm giving you my perspective, and
yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
I'm looking at it this way. It is the duty of every government to provide their citizens with the basics, you know. So in the hinterland, you would go and find a school, you would go and find a health post or a health center or something like that, and an ATV here, a tractor there. But I don't think before, for the last, I don't think for the years before, the last previous government never put in enough thought or thinking into growing or empowering the indigenous person.
And how has this government gone about that aspect?
For instance, how can you make them happy? You know, every one of us need to work. We need employment of some sort. We need to know that at some point in time we're earning money, even if it's every 2 months or every 3 months or every month, you know. So what we've been doing, for instance, we've been trying to create small industries within the communities and where employment, that can create employment and sustainable employment. The last time I was here, I told you about Pakrima Flavors.
Yes, you did.
Where the Ministry of Indigenous Peoples Affairs teamed up with the ISD, Dr. Suresh Narayan, our scientist, and a very good job was there in engaging the Patamonans in the Paramakatoy Mountain. And from 2 years ago, from 40 farmers, we now have 135 farmers. And more want to go and farm. So never before they had the opportunity of farming and selling their produce right there at the facility. And this came about because it's value added. And that's the only way to look at hinterland, let's say empowering hinterland really people, value added products. Because no use you bring out your farming products here, by the time you reach halfway and they're playing your tomatoes squash up and all sort of thing, and who will buy your tomatoes competing in Georgetown? But we can be there, we can take the solar dryer, extract the water from the tomatoes, and we have naturally sun-dried tomatoes. Then that can travel now to the lab here, where indigenous youths now are trained to make tomato ketchup and tomato salad dressing.
And they were able to package it here.
Of course.
And
I'm sorry I didn't bring a bottle.
I tasted it.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so that and it's naturally grown. It's naturally grown. You don't have all those chemicals spraying on them and so on.
A plan to take this other parts, other villages,
Well,
other
actually,
districts and regions?
Yes. Actually, in Santa Rosa, the 15 farmers are have planted 15 acres of coffee, the Robusta coffee. So in the next 1.5 to 2 years, they will be reaping coffee, and they will be packaging coffee, and Santa Rosa indigenous ground coffee will be sold throughout the country, and we of course we're
Is this
searching for
is
Caribbean markets too.
you never try to reinvent the wheel? Is this going back to what should have been pushed quite a lot
Well,
more?
actually, when I was in Santa Rosa, I'm from there, right? So when I was small, everybody used to climb up the tree, with a little bag and put, we used to call it a joro, and you pick the coffee bunches and put them inside. Then when it's filled, you stretch it down and somebody fill a bucket down there. So after years, it has died. So what I have done is really get together with the people and tell them, let us revitalize this industry. Because it used to have a mill there, but all the seeds used to be dried and sold to the palm room. But now we are going
And
straight
come
to
as
packaging.
Cameroon coffee.
Well, I'm not saying that. No, no,
That's asking, huh?
no, that was a long time ago. That was a long time ago.
I hear you.
So all the trees now. So we started with 15 acres, but the farmers there, because indigenous people are farmers basically, they got so excited they couldn't come in the program. So what they went to do is clean up all the coffee tree, pull down all the vines that used
The
to be on
ones
the
that are already there.
yes, since like 40, 50 years ago. So they started cleaning it up, and when I visited the market by the Comarca Landed, they said, Minister, are you going to support me? This coffee is from my tree, and it's well sealed up. He ground it and everything. So they're showing me now that they can produce and do value added too. So I bought a few. I was happy. I congratulated them. So you
bring
stir
nothing.
up
Well,
the.
has to bring a gift to this thing.
I will bring next time. I
You
didn't
go
know I
all
was
these
coming.
beautiful places in Guyana, you don't bring, I guess it's in the office, and I pass through
Yes.
and sip the coffee that you speak of. Someone once said, give hope to people and they could do so much.
Yes.
How much of it is giving hope to people giving hope?
I think the us our and that is, by the way, that's 10 million of government support, $10 million, and another $10 million in 2018, another $10 million in 2019. So that's $20 million so far invested in the coffee. Well, the 10 this year it's still being processed and so on. So soon they will collect that, and a building will go up that will house all this equipment to do the coffee and so on. But
Also,
hope,
you're going to be doing,
well, yeah,
fixing it up right there.
Yes.
Which makes much sense.
yeah. How else will you employ the youths and so on? You have to put down these factories right there, and this gives the people hope, and this will come in handy, especially where we're planning to build an institute there. We're planning to build like a farmers institute, but something like the Bina Hill in
Yeah.
Region 9, but this one will have catering. It will have motor mechanics and fashion design and everything that they dream of. We're bringing their dreams to them.
If you just joined us, we have in studio the Honorable Valerie Garrido-Lowe, the Minister within the Ministry of Indigenous Peoples Affairs. Minister, on the lighter side of things, is Bina real?
Uh,
And if so, what is it?
they say Bina is a charm.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I understand it is real if you believe it. Yeah, they say believe. It's all. Is it? If
No,
you believe
no.
in yourself that you can do something, you will do it, and you can do it.
No Bina stories this year?
Perhaps.
Anybody
Well,
get tied
you know Dr. George Mentor from Georgia University.
Mhm.
He did give a lecture once in Umanayana where he said that for his thesis, he had to live with the YYs. And he has seen, but he had to be initiated, and he has seen for himself how they can become invisible. So
He saw that.
he saw that.
And you've heard of that outside of him.
Yes.
A lot of mystery and mystique surrounding the hinterland, and we hear of Kanaima, and we hear of the ability to cure so many different things, and we hear if the Pumuli die and the tree grow out it, you could use it for the other sorts of things. And how much of this is culture, how much of it is lost, how much of it is still practiced?
Well, I do know that in the forest you can find um, lots of medicinal plants that can be used and have been used by the indigenous people years ago. I know, for instance, my very own grandfather, but he was from Venezuela, but he knew the forest well, and he used to make lots of medicine.
And may I ask, I have to, in the production of those medicine, have you ever seen them put marijuana or use marijuana in any of the medicines?
No, I haven't seen that
Or you may not be
actually.
privy to the ingredients. As not being the chef, can I ask you what's happening in the kitchen?
I don't think that our indigenous people were so privy long ago to marijuana. Right now they're getting, I mean,
This is
they're
industry
being
as
more
well. This is big
informed
industry.
in that way.
This is big industry.
Yeah.
In our hinterland, we have the soil, we have certain climatic conditions that we cannot reproduce in town here. There are certain very expensive strains of certain exotic plants that only grow certain places that would really provide a lot. I don't want to say tell the villagers to plant marijuana. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying we could explore conditions, climatic conditions up in the mountains to grow different stuff that we can't do down on the coastline here. That would be
Well,
a form of
we have explored and we're growing tomatoes naturally grown or organic. We're planting coffee and all those things. We're planting cassava organic and those things. So we're exploring in our own way, and maybe in the future we could get to that.
when you visit when you you know you in discounting at all. When you visit these places, I ask this question of politicians. Like when you have your office in town, and I presume you reside in town as well. And when you go to a village and you see something that it's just bad, whatever is it? How do you feel if you leave and you cannot fully address it? You understand, knowing that you're going to, I have to put it like this, you're going to something nice and comfortable. How do you go about doing that? Is there an extra effort to get it done, get it fixed immediately?
Yes. Remember, you're not staying there long. You have to be all over. So even if you don't want to address something, if it's a little horrid to address, you are a leader. You represent the government. They expect you to behave like a leader. So whether you like it or not, they're looking at you to address whatever is there to be addressed. It's as simple as that.
It's difficult for anybody to address everything, but how much of the main things do you believe that you've been able to address within the communities that you visited, and the complaints or the suggestions or the requests that you've received so far?
Well, when you look at youth, our youth population in hinterland, what we have been doing in the ministry there and through the Ministry of Presidency, we've been offering a lot of scholarships. We want to really educate our youths because they're bright and we can't have them there, let's say, going behind drugs and alcohol and teenage pregnancy and all those things. So we have been trying very hard to address that. We have employed in the ministry 8 welfare officers, because you find that in schools and in villages sometimes, because of alcohol, you would have things like alcohol
Related incidents
and so on. So we have to address those things. So we've been trying hard to do that, and those positions were created especially to address those things. Those welfare officers were trained.
This is, and like I said, you out ever since I know you were always out most times. I know you're out because you're one of your staff is a good friend of mine.
Okay.
And I know you're out ever so often. But some people may say this is just to gain votes or whatever. But is this being done sincerely in your estimation?
Both Minister Alikok and I can vouch for us. We are very sincere where our indigenous people and hinterland people are concerned, because we know the challenges there. what type of leaders would we be if we don't try to address those challenges to make life better for our people, especially when we have the opportunity to do so now in this government? So with a president who says, okay, we have to make sure that equity is addressed in the hinterland with regards to the residents there, well, that's all we need to hear. We got to go and do our work now.
I particularly like equity.
Mm-hmm.
Equality is for everyone being treated equally.
Right.
But equality would never be balanced without equity, because you can be creating just monsters of the same
right.
dispensation over and over.
That is it, because 100,000 here for the road, but 800,000 for the same stretch of road there. So you have to.
But you still have to get that road there.
You have to get it done, and that is the will of this government.
How is the battle fought for increased funding for indigenous people?
Well,
you getting problem for saying, or you don't back down when you
no, I don't back down. You see, every minister is very focused on their ministry. They have their agenda, their whole program there. They know what they want to do, and all for the benefit of the Guyanese people within their agencies. And all of us got to do the same. But we're not even 1 million people here yet in Guyana, and less work and pay taxes. So other than the taxes and the few grants here and there and a few loans here and there, we have to make that money do among ourselves there. So yes, sometimes you have to give up something, but you fight nevertheless.
You or Minister Alika, who gives up and says okay first? We need 1 billion. Hey, you could only get 500 million. Who says okay? We take 500. What do you say?
Well, Minister Alikok and I have a very good relationship, so I justify mine. If he agrees, he says he agrees. If I disagree, I say I disagree, and we come to a compromise.
And then you say 1.2.
So, but once, I'm accustomed to
Minister,
to
tell us
justify.
about, a little before you go, about HAYS, H-U-I-S, the Hinterland Employment Youth Service.
Oh, Hinterland Employment and Youth Service. HAYS is a household name now in Hinterland. It is one of the 10-point plan for Hinterland that President Granger did mention in the NTC in 2015. It is there to ensure that the hinterland youths get an opportunity to develop themselves, build their capacity, and we can't give jobs to everyone, but we can build your capacity so that you can, create something for yourself, self-employment, and employ someone else too. So we have young mothers, that's addressing the teenage pregnancy, and young fathers who quit school and they want to go into the mines thinking they can get rich overnight. But many of them, I'm sorry to say, they get into lots of trouble, alcohol, drugs, and then some of them don't come home and things like that, Yeah, up to the other day on Facebook, there was a young man there, he died and no one could identify him. They were just asking, who is he? And people were worried because some of their youths were outside and they wanted to know if that's their son or that's their grandson there. So the youths, and furthermore, many of them are being taken advantage of. They're not being paid. Many of them come into our ministry. For months they haven't been paid and things like that, and they can't get their money. So instead of having them out there and punishing the Guyanese, let us give them some English and maths and so on, build their capacity. Let us teach them ecotourism, let us teach them budgeting, business studies and so on, and let us teach them some carpentry and joinery and garment construction, or electrical installation or catering or computer data operation and things like that, let us teach them something so that they can start something for themselves right in the community. Because, for instance, when there's an order for the uniform material, they sew themselves. Some of them barely know how to sew. Some of them don't have a machine, they sew with hands. Now, with the Hinterland Employment and Youth Service, you get $30,000 a month. You go and sit in class for six months, and the other 6 months you develop a business. For instance, you buy a machine, you buy material, and you start your own business. We have in Parmagatoy a girl sewing wedding dresses now. We have two others.
She monopolized the market.
Two others doing hairdressing for the first time. That's what they got some extra sponsorship, came to town, and learned that. So they're doing well in Parmagatoy right now, like Mother's Day, weddings, and so on. People come and they do their hair and their face and so on.
Minister, do you believe there is still casual, if you could ever say discrimination is casual, but it's learned behavior, and many times we need to unlearn certain things? You believe there's still just this open discrimination against indigenous peoples here in Guyana? Or if there is, if it's less, if there's an education program? Because I experienced for myself, persons may not even know better when they address people sometimes. How do we deal with that if it's present?
Well, it's less now, but it's still there. The old way of I'm better than the indigenous person. But that is, as you say, some of them don't know better. When they when they learn better, I think they will do better. We have this year is International Year of Indigenous Languages. We're promoting all the 9 languages from the 9 nations. You never came to our Bayuka Irikida at all. We have it again this month end, where when you go and sing, you say a poem.
I never miss indigenous celebrations.
Go get somebody. You have indigenous persons working in this establishment. Yeah, so you have indigenous persons working in this establishment who know their languages. So perhaps you could either ask them to teach you a line or two. So even if you open out with a sentence or two and do the rest in English.
Every morning.
Right, Kaimen Pugari, so really good.
I got that, and
that's really
added
good.
That to my morning greetings.
Yeah, that's very good. That's Wabicha.
Yes. Have you found anyone who knows all 9 languages?
Not really. Even Ovid, who is our, he is the program coordinator for the languages this year, the International Year of Indigenous Languages. He knows about 5 or 6, but not all 9. So
could he understand the others?
Maybe.
Or they could be totally different from.
Maybe he could, but some of them are similar. Something like Portuguese and Spanish. Some of them are similar like that.
Okay, then. If someone is from the hinterland and they don't know, how they could make contact with the ministry? Like some help there in town and stranded or something?
Oh, well, call 223-7285. And that's my secretariat.
Okay then.
And ask for Queenie, ask for Orlando, and so on.
So you have the pageant coming shortly?
Yes. And we have the Heritage Month coming up, actually.
Heritage Month. I saw somebody post on Facebook, NCM in disrupting the Heritage Month celebrations this year.
The village that has been chosen is Rivers View. That's opposite Bartica. So on the 10th of September, everyone goes there. And we are taking the Stephen Campbell Celebration Day to Rivers View now. So we'll have like 2 books launched there. One is the Aracuna alphabet, which they completed, and the Patamona dictionary. And of course, readings from some of his wonderful speeches in Parliament. Because what we have found, right, that the young indigenous people, they cannot identify too much with Stephen Campbell, but they love heritage. They like their month, but they have to learn that that month they came about because of Stephen Campbell.
Yes, and,
So,
and it is a story that they all should know.
yes, so that is what we're trying to do all the time, especially through in Heritage Month and this year.
Which language you speak?
Oh, I'm ashamed to say that I cannot speak my
Is that
own
right?
Arawak language
You
except to say Alekuba.
You used to hide in the coffee tree when the classes.
No, what happened, my grandparents only used to speak Spanish, so that's the whole thing.
So you know Spanish too?
I had to cut it out somewhat. But I know a little simply because I had to cut it out because when you go to school, you tend to mix up the language with the English language. That's why when they say that first language, it's hard for our nations, our indigenous people, when they go to school to be to be met with English language just like that. It's hard because I had to really turn over in my mind sometimes what my teacher meant when she said quarter. I don't know what is quarter, but I know what is quarter,
Mm-hmm.
So I got it, and when she drew the circle and she made that is quadro she means. So that is it.
Okay then,
Mm-hmm.
Honorable Minister, thanks for passing by. And I know you're going to be even more busy this month heading into Heritage celebrations in
Yes.
September, the entire month. Anything new this year? Anything outside of Rivers View and
Well,
the
we have
pageant coming again this year?
yes, and of course Heritage Sport, which is a huge
Yeah,
day.
I've missed it for years now.
You missed it?
I haven't.
Oh,
I was
well,
commentating
oh,
on the
oh
last
yeah,
day,
oh yeah, oh
remember?
yeah, oh yes.
I was right there with
When the Parima girls from Region 7 won
the
the
soccer.
tournament, that was fantastic.
Yeah,
Eh?
wonderful.
Everybody stood up. Apparently, we thought we were we felt then that we were in the international stadium and so.
But it felt like that.
Yes,
The support and the atmosphere.
the competition, and it's growing bigger. And why it's growing bigger? We have been collaborating with GFF to build the standard of it. So, what we do is not just bring a team down now. What we do is ask them to do their playoffs in the region.
Yes, I'm aware of that.
When they do their playoffs, now they come down, the winner comes down, or a dream team comes
Comes down,
down.
mhm.
And then they have
And the winning
high
team,
level
the winning team
competition.
from up there could ask players from other teams that lost to join their team to come to town.
If they feel
Brings
is it
benefit, right?
Right. They can do that. So
There's
it's their choice.
There's a
But
lot of money to bring all these people.
yes,
Yeah, not people, all these Guyanese.
yes,
A lot of tax money.
yes,
to
it
bring.
is.
It is a heavy bill.
It
I'm
is
certain.
it is a heavy bill, but it's an investment that the national teams of various sports hardly used to reflect a national team. You hardly found an indigenous face there. So we started with football especially, and we've been doing well, especially we had Annalisa there in the girls national team, and we had some more youths in the under 17 national team too. So I think we're doing well.
Especially female soccer.
Yeah,
the players from the hinterland, if more of them get to go to practice and to trials, more of them will make teams. They play
and that is
rough
what,
and firm.
and that is what this whole thing is all about. First, it never had that type of competitiveness. Now you have scouts there looking out to see who they can identify to join, to go for training, to play with the national team.
I noticed for years on your soccer team, it's not only indigenous Guyanese. You see representatives, you see African Guyanese, you see on the teams. Yeah?
Well, Malcolm, you would be surprised that someone looks like
But
pure,
identifies.
pure African
But identifies as
would have a
indigenous.
grandmother who is indigenous. Therefore, they identify with the indigenous. I think it's not only looking indigenous, it's about a certain feeling, how you feel about yourself. Or like me, I got a couple other races too, but I say I'm indigenous.
But
That's how I feel.
so I was on the sideline, and the beauty about it, no one told the individual anything about race or anything like that. You know, it was like you get the same boo if you do nonsense, you get
Yeah.
the same cheers if you do something
Yeah.
good.
So when you go in hinterland, you would see some mix, but they're accepted because they grew up there, they talk the language, and their grandmother, their mother is indigenous.
Okay.
And that's it.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister.
And some of them marry.
Mhm.
And they now adopt the lifestyle. You can't tell them that they're not indigenous.
I wouldn't try to either. Thanks very much, Honorable Minister within the Ministry of Indigenous Peoples Affairs, Ms. Valerie Garrido-Lowe, for being on the program. And as usual, an open invitation is extended. And keep doing what you do. You've been working hard. And I will not only take your word for it, I go one or two places too.
Okay.
And I find out too.
Okay.
And someone told me in Latin to tell you thanks for something you did for them.
Oh. Thank you for telling me.
Yeah, so